Hey folks, how's it going? This is Iron Seagull here, back with another My Sims 4 wishlist video. And it's finally time. It's finally time to do a seasons wishlist video. It's been a long time coming, but especially now that Cats and Dogs is out of the way, I think it's time to focus more on seasons. So if you haven't seen any of my previous wishlist videos, what I do for these is propose an idea and then go into a lot of detail in how I'd like to see it done and how it should be given out, whether through a free update, a stuff pack, a game pack, or expansion pack. And in the case of seasons, I want it to be a full expansion pack. I know there's some people who would rather see it as a game pack, but I don't think that would do seasons justice. Seasons is a huge, complex thing to do with The Sims. So I think to do it as an expansion pack would give the team a lot of flexibility in making the weather better than it's ever been before, and maybe even throw in some new features that haven't been done in the Sims series before. There are a few things that I'd like to see done with seasons that would actually be given out in the free update that would be released just before the expansion pack, but I'll get into those as I go along. So to give you a general overview of my vision for The Sims 4 seasons, it would have quite a bit in common with The Sims 3 seasons, but there would be some key differences, because with city living, we already got festivals, although they are different than the seasonal festivals that we got in The Sims 3. But because we did get those cultural festivals, I don't think there needs to be as much of an emphasis on bringing back the seasonal festivals. I sure wouldn't mind to see them again, but I think there should be more of a focus on the harshness of the weather and make it affect our Sims more, as well as bring in some of the scrapped ideas from the eco-living community vote that ended up becoming Laundry Day stuff in the end. Because I think there's some really good features with a lot of potential that was in that gameplay vote, like off the grid, and the preservatives, and the recycling. So far, every new expansion pack has come with a world, and I'd like seasons to continue that trend. And the world I'd like to see this time is an Arctic world. I know that sounds a little out there, especially since it has a bit of a limited appeal, but I think the base game worlds, especially like Oasis Springs, can already show off summer really well, so I'd really like for them to do something different. The closest they've really gotten to that is Aurora Skies, the Sims 3 store world, but I think it'd be, no pun intended, really cool for them to do an Arctic world to really show off the power of winter. There's a custom world for The Sims 3 that I really enjoyed by Nilxus, called Soccer Talk, and that is an Arctic world, and I think that one was pulled off really well, so I'd like to see that be kind of like the rough guideline for how to do an Arctic world officially. Plus, I think it would be a nice opportunity to do a world in The Sims 4 that feels really close to nature. I think Windenburg and Bridleton Bay have kind of done that a little bit, but I think a world that's based in the Arctic could do that maybe even better. One staple of the season's expansion so far is that you can change all 4 seasons to be whatever you like, no matter what world you're in, and that's something that I think should really stay. But on top of that, I'd like to see one more thing, a climate control, because, for example, summers in Brindleton Bay should not be as hot as Oasis Springs summers, in my opinion, so there is a little bit more fine-tuning that I think could be done that hasn't been done in the previous Sims games. Although it's been a little bit difficult for me to nail down exactly how that would appear in the game, but here's an idea. Maybe we can just have a few predetermined climate settings, like tropical, which would fit in really well with Selva Dorada, or a desert climate for worlds like Oasis Springs, temperate climates, and maybe continental climates. I believe that's what you would consider the climate that's around where I live in southern Canada. And then of course the Arctic climate for really cold worlds like the one that I'm proposing for this expansion pack. One major concept I want to push is the idea of seasonal wear. I actually did a what if video about this a while back, And thanks to feedback from you all, I decided to revise the idea into something a little bit different. Instead of having 5 outfits per category per season, instead of just 5 outfits for each category period, I made it so that it would be 5 outfits per category for everyday and outerwear only, with the rest of the category still just having a blanket 5 outfits. Because, I mean, let's be honest, do we really need winter sleepwear, summer sleepwear, spring sleepwear, fall sleepwear? No, I don't think that makes sense and is quite unnecessary. So I think it would be much better to just have this seasonal wear option for everyday and outerwear, because those are the categories we would change the most per season to adjust for the weather. Plus, I'd be far less worried about save files getting too big and becoming all bloated and eventually imploding because of having to save so many outfits for potentially so many sims per save. Because, especially with seasons like spring for example, it might rain a lot instead of snow, so you might not want your sims to wear like a really heavy winter jacket. You might just want to wear a rain jacket, and actually, one of the reasons I made that what-if video in the first place is because I wanted to have a use for the rain jackets. So I think it'd be great to be able to set rain jackets for spring wear, and then with winter outerwear you could set them for heavy winter jackets. I mean, you'd still have the freedom to set whatever you want, but it just gives you a bit more flexibility. While we're on the subject of Create a Sim, I might as well talk about traits that I'd like to see. And one big one I'd really want to see is the return of the eco-friendly trait. I actually did a mod review on a custom eco-friendly trait recently, and I'd like to see it be a lot like that, where it would also integrate with laundry day stuff, where your sim will get negative moodlets if they use the washer and dryer, they'll get positive moodlets if they use the wash tub and the clothesline, and also things like getting a negative moodlet from taking a bath, positive moodlets from having a shower, and also just being happy from maintaining their garden. In addition to those things, I would like sims with the eco-friendly trait to be happy from having the solar panels and wind turbines, and they get happy moodlets from doing maintenance on them. I'll talk a little bit more about those later. I'd also like to see the more expected things, like loves the cold, hates the heat, loves the heat. And if we were to get ocean swimming in this expansion, then I'd want the loves to swim trait to return as well. Although I can also imagine this sort of thing happening with a tropical game pack as well, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a seasons feature. As for aspirations, to be honest, I can't really think of anything substantial enough. I mean, maybe you could have an eco-friendly aspiration too, but I'm not sure if there'd be enough there that could be interesting to make a whole lifetime aspiration out of it. And for the weather itself, like I mentioned near the beginning of the video, I do want the weather to affect our sims a bit more and be a bit harsher than it has been in the previous games. One great way I think this could be done that I'm surprised hasn't already been done in The Sims 2 and The Sims 3 is to have severe thunderstorms and snowstorms knock out the power for a while. Technically, we already have power outages in the game through not paying your bills on time, and also the power outage scenarios in the city living apartments, the low-end ones that is. So in theory, I think power outages would be very easy to put in The Sims 4. And these power outages could last from just a few hours to even up to 2 days, just to make things really challenging at times. And certain objects could really come in handy in this situation. For example, if you need to do laundry and the power is out, then you can use the wash tub. And this is also where the off-the-grid idea could come into play. If the power goes out and you've maintained your wind turbines and solar panels well so that they still have a lot of power left in them, then you can get through the power outage with no worries at all. And if this season's expansion pack were to include the proposed off-the-grid law trait that was part of the off-the-grid idea, then, well, I guess you wouldn't even really get power outages anyways, at least not by the weather. Well, except for maybe one circumstance, because I want the wind to be more devastating than before, and I want the wind to act independently of other weather. So this would mean you could have a sunny day, but have it still be really windy, or you can have wind during severe thunderstorms or snowstorms, like in the previous games. And if the wind gets really strong, especially during a hurricane, there's a chance that some of the smaller objects in the game can get destroyed into piles of rubble. And solar panels can be one of those objects. And in addition to wind being destructive, Sims, especially ones with the clumsy trait, can kind of do like this walking against the wind when it's really strong, and possibly trip as well. Furnaces and air conditioners would be other objects that could help Sims deal with the weather. They wouldn't be absolutely mandatory, but I think it would be funny to have an animation with Sims fighting over the thermostat, and ceiling fans would be in here as well. And your Sims will get a neutral buff for having air conditioners and furnaces during the right seasons. And if you don't have them, there is a chance that Sims could get a slight uncomfortable buff, but nothing too crazy. And I think needless to say, harvestables will be affected by the seasons and weather, just like in the previous games. It worked just the same, with rain working to help water the plants, and plants going dormant in the winter, and stuff like that. As for new harvestables, I can't really think of any new ones. I guess it would be nice to have pumpkins, although they wouldn't really necessarily go with an Arctic world too well, but I think it'd be great to have harvestable pumpkins so that you could have a bit of cross-integration with spooky stuff and be able to carve them and make pumpkin pie, just like in the Sims 3 seasons. Maybe they could just have the pumpkins in a greenhouse somewhere in the world, so that it'll make more sense. And now let's talk about new activities with this season's expansion pack. And there'd be quite a few in total, because you gotta have a few for each season. So the first thing that I'll mention is that the holidays will return, and they'll be the same as they were in The Sims 3, where you have Love Day for spring, Leisure Day for summer, Spooky Day for fall, and Snowflake Day for winter. And seasonal festivals would return in a similar fashion too, where they're a new venue type that detect which season it is, and you have the seasonal markers that return as well. And then I think they're actually a really good thing to have, because in The Sims 3, I would place those in my Sims houses so that, especially when it's winter, then the house will automatically change over to holiday decorations. Not just like the holiday lights strung around the house, but like having the holiday tree up and all of that good stuff. We'd also have the canning station returning from previous Sims games, which was part of the preservatives idea from the eco-living gameplay vote. And it would work pretty much the same as previous games as well, where you can use that to store your harvestables long term and make some jams as well. We'd also have recycle bins, which is recycled from the carbon conscious idea, where you have recycle bins and your Sims can get positive moodlets for recycling if you have the eco-friendly trait. And your Sim can also walk to a recycle plant which is off camera, kind of like how you can volunteer with Parenthood. It would work much like that. And you can turn in your recyclables for a little bit of cash on the side. And then just to list off a bunch of other things that I want to see return that'd be pretty much the same as they were in The Sims 3 are the love tester, the kissing booth, slow dancing, the soccer net, the juicer returning from The Sims 2 seasons, the pool lounger, beach balls, football throwing, and soccer ball passing interactions if your Sim has those objects in their inventory, trick-or-treaters for Spooky Day, and unfortunately this is going to have to be one feature that's cut down a bit in comparison to The Sims 3, because I think if our active Sims were able to go trick-or-treating, it would become loading screens the game. So unless they were able to update The Sims 4 to have open neighborhoods, which I think is not going to happen, but if it was, then okay, yeah, sure, then we could have trick-or-treating be the same as in The Sims 3, but I still think it would be nice to have Sims come over to your Sim's house and do the whole trick-or-treat thing. I don't think there's anything stopping them from doing that. Umbrellas would come back too, so that not only Sims could travel around in rain without getting wet, vampires can also use it to shield themselves from the sun. There'd also be apple bobbing, raking leaves, where you can build up leaf piles that Sims can jump in and play in, or possibly woohoo. Composting bins would return from The Sims 2. There would be the haunted house rabbit hole, but it would be a little bit more interactive than what we had in The Sims 3. It would have chance cards, kind of like what we're gonna see in Jungle Adventure. And then there'd be the snowboard half pipes, curling, which would be a brand new sport for The Sims. I think that'd be a really fun group activity to include. And then igloos can be built, which would be another new woohoo spot. The Sims can build snowmen, make snow angels, and there'd be functional mistletoe for the holidays, as well as the gift-giving interaction, which would be given out in a free update as well. And of course, there would be a whole gift-giving thing like there was with Snowflake Day in The Sims 3. Your Sims could also have a chance of getting allergies while they're outside in the spring. And one example they could do of an activity that brings you closer to nature in the Arctic is ice fishing. And, well, this would have to be one of those activities where it makes sense for it to be exclusive to this world, since there's no other world in The Sims 4 yet that has massive amounts of frozen lakes or oceans. So what we could do with this feature is have our Sims walk out onto the ice, and then you have to drill into the ice at a spot marked with the usual fishing sign, and then from there you can start fishing once you've drilled through the ice. Some ice fishing spots could also have a shack set up so you don't have to drill if you don't want to, and your Sims can keep warm. However, the rare new fish that would come with this world can also be found in the spots that you have to drill into. But be careful, there is a chance your Sims could fall through thin ice, and if their energy is too low when this happens, they'll turn into ice and drown, leading to, I guess, what you can technically consider a new death, but it is similar to base game drowning. And I haven't talked about new build mode stuff yet, so let's get into that now. So, one thing that I've been begging for years is pool steps. I don't think I've ever seen a pool without pool steps. It's just kind of weird to me that we don't have them in The Sims after 4 games. So, I think Seasons would be a good pack to include those. And, well, they would actually come for free too. It would just be with the update that comes out before Seasons. And then we'd also have the pool slides, a high diving platform, and a short diving board, which would resemble the diving boards you're used to seeing in the previous Sims games, not like the diving platforms from Get Together. There would also be the return of the deaths by heat stroke or by becoming frozen, and there would also be the return of the death from hail. I also want to talk about features that integrate with other packs, because I love it when packs in The Sims work together, so the game feels more like a complete package instead of just a bunch of different ones stitched together. So a few things I'd like to see are new club rules related to all of the activities that I talked about, and if you have laundry day stuff, strong winds can blow the clothesline. And if you have rain, then they can make the clothesline wet again. And if you have city living, which came with the singing skill, Sims with the singing skill may literally want to sing in the rain every once in a while. There's also a couple of things that I haven't mentioned yet that I'd like to see in a free update to coordinate with Seasons. So, I think cloudy weather that can occasionally happen should be included in the free update. I don't think it should be limited to the expansion. Fog would be nice as well. It would just be nice for The Sims 4 to have at least a tiny bit of weather, even if you don't own the expansion pack. And I'm just gonna throw body hair in there as well. I think that is one thing that should be brought back eventually in The Sims 4, and I don't know, this is probably one of the weirdest ideas in this video, but I don't know, I guess it would be something good to have. And I mean, Seasons is a popular expansion pack, so I think for something like body hair to be integrated to the game at the time this comes out, I guess it would make sense. Maybe that's just me though. And that wraps up another My Sims 4 wishlist video. This is easily one of the longest ones I've done so far. 20 minutes. Wow. I hope you enjoyed all of that. It was one of the most challenging videos I've made in a long time, but it was fun to talk at length about what I'd like to see for the return of one of my all-time favorite features in The Sims. I probably went a little too ambitious with my ideas, but if a Seasons expansion could be at least most of these things, that would be awesome. But of course, Seasons is a really huge idea. There's probably stuff that I still forgot to mention, so let me know in the comment section below what you'd like to see in a Seasons expansion. And be sure to check out the playlist for my Sims 4 wishlist, which I will have linked at the end of the video. I've built up a little bit of a catalog at this point, and I do plan on continue doing more of them, and I'm really glad that so far a lot of you are enjoying them as well. But I'm gonna wrap things up here, so be sure to leave a like or a comment or even subscribe because it lets me know that you like my channel, my videos, and it helps you keep up to date more easily with the latest content for me. I do videos on The Sims, Sonic the Hedgehog, and more, so I will talk to you all later, and have a great day! Thanks for watching!